Very sadly, I think very often it takes an incident to happen before people really understand what the risks are, and that isn't good enough, because that means a child has already been harmed.
Every company whose employees or business partners engage directly or indirectly with children has a legal and moral duty of care to do all it can to protect children from harm. And a child safeguarding policy and program is really what provides a company with a formal approach to managing this duty of care.
So UNICEF has launched the Child Safeguarding Toolkit for business to help companies understand their exposure to child rights-related risk and make informed investment decisions.
The first step in the toolkit is to map out all of the direct and indirect contact, and I would just encourage you to literally sit down with key colleagues. If you're a small organisation, do it with everybody. If you're a large organisation, then get key representatives and literally, with a bit of flip chart paper, map out all of the direct, in other words, face-to-face and indirect data, images, stories through third parties, contact that you have with children, and that will start to shape for you the kind of levels of understanding around risk for safeguarding. Risk assessments don't have to be war and peace, they can be relatively kind of succinct, but they just need to identify what's the kind of contact, who are the adults that are going to be involved, what are the risks, and how are we going to mitigate them. It's really important, actually, that we think both about the policies and the procedures and the culture. We can write a policy and get it signed off. We could probably train everybody in it in about 6 months. I'm sure we could kind of go off and write one and get it done, tick that box. But if you've got the best policy and procedures in the world and you don't have a culture within your organisation where children can be heard and where staff and volunteers can also speak up and where there can be some transparency, people can admit mistakes, they know who to go to, and if we don't have a culture that is child-centred and focused and thinking about things from the point of view of the child, then the policies and procedures probably aren't really worth the paper that they're written on. We think about sexual harm, we think about children being violated in those kind of incredibly serious ways. When we're thinking about culture, though, we also need to think about the other end of the spectrum, because we need to have a zero tolerance to the kind of behaviour that creates an environment where poor practice can be normalised. The obvious group that we struggle to engage in this work are children, and very often they aren't involved in the work at all, and that can lead us to develop things that don't work for them. We don't talk to children because it's nice for them if we talk to them. We talk to them because we learn something. We learn something we didn't know, and the older I get, the further away I am from being a child and seeing the world from their perspective. So I still think we can involve children, but there's very often active children's rights and participation organisations that we can engage with as well. So if you're sitting here thinking, well, we're an IT company and we don't know how to do this well, then get involved with a partner. Get a partner whose bread and butter is to engage with children and to get them involved in participatory, consultative work and use their expertise.
What I've seen a little bit in my work on broader human rights and child rights and working across different industries is that grievance mechanisms and the idea of having an effective grievance mechanism, oftentimes companies will say, well, we didn't get any complaints. We didn't get any complaints on human rights, or we didn't get any complaints on child rights, so we're good. Everything is working as it should. And I think it's important for organizations to question that data point and really take a look and see whether that's the case. If it's really because there aren't any instances, or because it's not working. That's not an appropriate way for a child or someone else, a parent, to communicate a concern.
If you do this well, you will absolutely see your reporting go up. You should, and you need to warn your board of that, because sometimes they can say, well, we didn't have any cases before you started putting all these things in place, and now we've got a safeguarding person in. We've had 20 cases, and that doesn't mean that stuff wasn't there. It was there, but nobody was talking about it. So we need to educate people as far as we can. We need to try and educate the media as well to help them understand that, you know, cases will go up. That's the fact that you're getting cases through doesn't mean that you're doing everything wrong. It means that you have processes that are working in terms of identifying concerns. We don't want to see case numbers continually rise. We want to see us kind of plateau on those cases, and we want to see numbers go down. One of the things to consider for organisations is the cost of getting this wrong, fundamentally to children, but also to the business, is huge.